So Stephanie, what does being an Anglican mean to you?
So I was raised atheist in France, and I converted in England, in the Church of England, and then I joined an American Episcopal community in Paris, and I went to seminary in the States, in an Episcopal seminary as well. So for me to be an Anglican is first of all, there is something connected with the rest of the world. I always feel between the Church of England and the Episcopal American Church. And a lot has something to do with the aesthetics. I went to church because of music, because of the arts, the poetry, literature, paintings, and I loved the way in the Anglican tradition there was the beauty of the liturgy, the beauty of choral evensong, for example, and how I would, especially as an atheist at first, would encounter something mysterious through the arts, and how this was articulated often by preachers. This was involved in worship. Music itself was worship, and how arts in general were, I think, a window to the divine and God. So that was a good bridge for me.
So Stephanie, what have you received by being an Anglican?
I think the first thing was, even if I was raised atheist, I was given an image of God who was a judgmental God. And in the Anglican Church, I was given a completely different image, which was of a loving God, a God we never know fully, and who colors outside the lines. Not a being that I would imagine as a human being, but as broader and bigger and wider and deeper than I could ever imagine. So I think, first of all, that was this another representation of God, a loving God who is with us, and it takes a whole life to know more about God. And there's always something new to see about God. I think I was given also a community not specifically in a particular place, but more broadly of people who are asking questions, who are given opportunities to challenge easy answers. I loved the fact that, especially in the first community I joined, there were scholars. And that was a new thing for me, to see scholars who could also be believers. And that space was made for questions, for doubt, for inquiries. I felt very welcome, and that my resistance was also welcome and was given space. I could explore, I could articulate even sometimes that I was uncomfortable with what I thought was the teaching of the church, and was certainly not rejected for that, but it was something like, okay, let's have coffee and talk about this more, and not thinking that the clergy person or the lay person with whom I was talking had all the answers, but that we were on the same path and walking together. And some of us are ahead of us, and some are just walking alongside, and we learn from each other also, this idea that we are all learning from each other.
So Stephanie, as an Anglican, what do you hope for and work for?
I am very international, given my path, and so where I grew up, where I studied, and where I went to seminary, and where I serve here in Jerusalem. I'm hoping, I think, for two things, especially. One is to bring together people who believe that they have nothing to do together because of cultural differences, because I am thinking of global warming, and that our generation will face migrations due to disasters that are happening all around the world, and that triggers strong reactions in people, as humans, the wish to be secure and not to mix with people we don't know, and whose cultures may seem threatening. And instead, I think there is room in the Anglican Church for this capacity to welcome the other, show curiosity towards something that feels very different. There is the willingness to be the body of Christ together, even if we may believe at first that we have nothing in common. There's the generosity, the openness, and so I think the Church, the Anglican Church, has something very beautiful, strong and powerful to offer for our generation. Another thing is the place of women in the Church, serving in a place where it's not always easy to be a female clergy. I'm hoping that that as a woman I can participate in showing that we are not only very competent, but have a lot to offer to the Church, and to show to people who would not believe at first that this is possible, that actually this is possible, and it is very good, a very good thing. And it's deep down, I think it's a theological question. We can reflect God in another way that's been reflected so far. And again, showing that nothing is impossible with God. It's a beautiful message of hope that we can share all around the world.